country. And he was going to do that. If he did that, you would have had this literally stopped, almost stopped. And I said, do you have a drug problem? He said, no, they give the death penalty in China. If you sell drugs. And the way you get it down, if you want to get it down to close to 100%, is with the death penalty. But I think maybe America is not ready for that. China has a death penalty. Singapore has a death penalty. Various places have the death penalty. Wherever you have the death penalty, you don't have drugs. But I just don't know if this country is ready for it. So I tell people, and it's always an option, but I don't know. I just don't know if you're ready for it, and that's okay.
We identify one period of cooperation, May 2019, that was affected. Looking forward, we would like to update our sample to take into account more recent cooperation and, if possible, cooperation that may well emerge over the course of the year, driven by the imposition of tariffs on China connected to this. And as well, possible cooperation with Canada and particularly with Mexico that may emerge, driven by the imposition of tariffs. We can also extend this analysis to other drugs. It's no longer just the US-China bilateral issue. And we can do diplomacy. I would not, as some people have been discussing around Washington, I would not be supportive of us intervening militarily in Mexico. I think we have to do this through diplomacy. We can increase interdiction efforts on our side of the border, and there are some, there's some positive news in that dimension. But the other thing I'd like to add is, as China becomes more restrictive in export of precursor chemicals, demand for those chemicals is now shifting to India. So eventually, if the crisis doesn't burn itself out fast enough, India will get pulled into this in a significant way. And so again, the diplomacy is going to have to be multilateral, and it could get more complicated later on in the year.
Okay, which is that, as the presentation makes clear, this is an ongoing issue. It has roots in the Obama administration and extended through the first Trump and Biden administrations as well. In the paper, you provide this really useful timeline that outlines sort of the U.S.-China bilateral diplomatic discussions and then interventions. And that the last notch, as I recall in that timeline, was the launch of the U.S. PRC, so People's Republic of China, Counter-Narcotics Working Group. And that suggests that as of last summer, the direction of travel was positive. Do you think that direction of travel is going to continue positively during Trump 2.0, or what types of bilateral discussions or increasingly multilateral discussions may take place?
Well, in February, the Trump administration imposed a 10% tariff on Canada, Mexico, and China associated with the fentanyl crisis. And when the Chinese retaliated, the Trump administration upped it to 20%. Then with the so-called Liberation Day tariffs, the Trump administration imposed additional tariffs on China. China once again retaliated, and the two countries got into a retaliatory spiral where we ended up with triple-digit tariffs going in both ways. Now, within the last few weeks, we've pulled that back. And so right now we have a base level tariff of 30% on China, 20% of which is fentanyl. So if I were the Chinese government and I'm looking for a way to get out from under some of this tariff action, a concession on the fentanyl issue would be, it strikes me as a pretty easy one. The issue is enforcement. The chemical industry in China that makes the precursors is very decentralized. Some of them may have links to local or provincial governments. And so it's not a simple thing, but one would think that given the stakes, the government of China would be motivated to reach some sort of accommodation with the United States on this issue. And indeed, the rumors around town is the Chinese are ready to negotiate, but the Trump administration, and I'll be in fairness, all American administrations appoint so many people that it's really May or June after the president is inaugurated before the government's really ready to do business. So my expectation is over the next couple of months, we'll see intensified negotiations between the United States and China that will reduce, if not the entire fentanyl tariff on China, but reduce part of it at least. Then we'll end up in an ironic situation in which President Trump campaigned on putting a 60% tariff on China. Well, if he removes the fentanyl component completely, you're down to 10%. And I don't think that's politically sustainable. So I would not be at all surprised if the United States then introduced special protection on the pharmaceutical industry.
And in China, they have a very, very tough penalty for drugs. It's called the death penalty. And I said to President Xi, you don't have much of a drug problem. Do you have a drug problem? No, no drug problem. I said, so you have 1.4 billion people and you don't have a drug problem. That's right, no drug problem. I said, what do you attribute that to? Death penalty, quick trial.